off top, on this day in 1975, President Gerald Ford signed the Metric System Conversion Act when the United States switched over from the standard system to the metric system. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show, presented by Allstate. Throw your hands up. We are joined, as we are every Monday, by the great Bill Barnwell and my buddy, Charlie the Vanilla Snack Kravitz. But you made a noise. Did you like that metric stat? Because clearly we did not respect Gerald Ford's act. We are still talking about yards on this show, at least.
I just appreciated that it was the least horny fact we've had on a Sunday night all season. So I'm just happy that it was
really?
just embarrassing as opposed to sexually embarrassing.
Sexually embarrassing is hilarious. I like we started there. I was either go there or go with some sort of Christmas related thing.
Okay.
Just because it is the season, like talk about when Teddy Ruxpin came out, because that was a really big day. Did you have a My Buddy? So Teddy Ruxpin was one of my favorite toys only because.
What's a My Buddy?
Hold on, we'll get to that in a second. First of all,
did you have a kid sister?
I didn't have a sister. I had a My Buddy, which honestly, My Buddy was the precursor to the wrestling dummies. You remember wrestling dummies that came out?
No question.
Because that's all My Buddy was a wrestling dummy for me and my brother to suplex around the basement. We didn't have a sister, so there was no kid sister.
I remember those. The wrestling buddies were like the WWE characters that said stuff.
Well, back then it was WWF. This was before World Wildlife Fund got litigious.
I'm pretty sure I had a Stone Cold wrestling thing at one point.
Ooh.
I'm sad because you missed out on Teddy Ruxpin.
Just think of the movie Ted.
No,
Just
Teddy
Mark
Ruxpin was a little stuffed animal teddy bear that had a cassette player in the back, and what you had to do, obviously, is where you take out the Teddy Ruxpin cassette tape and you obviously put in Raekwon's purple tape in the back, and then it becomes a great toy. That's the Teddy Ruxpin experience.
The original Chopped and Screwed was Teddy Ruxpin tapes with a cassette player that probably stopped working after 2 months for several years.
I'm just sad that we switched we didn't end up adopting the metric system. To go back to your off top.
Yeah, that's a big fail for us.
You know what though? Like we have abandoned the 300-yard game, the 1,000-yard rusher. All that stuff's out the window. We don't want that.
But here's the thing, Bill. It's not an issue for me and Domonique. Us as exactly 183 centimeter bros. But like, imagine getting out the 6 feet tall being the height thing for dudes. Like,
it wouldn't be a thing anymore.
Yeah, it's like. If you're 182 centimeters to 183, not a big deal.
Oh man. Anyway, all right, Charlie. Is there a segue there for you?
I think let's just start where we're going to start.
All right, let's do it.
Look, today's my day. That's
true. Yeah.
The Commanders might be moving back into Washington D.C.
Oh.
The Commanders they destroyed the rival of our show. The city of Philadelphia, they ripped their hearts out because Jayden Daniels went for five touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Commanders had 5 turnovers. Coming into the day, the Commanders didn't have a single win against the team with a winning record. We were kind of on fraud watch. Today, they beat this Eagles team that we were calling a juggernaut. They were Domonique's Super Bowl favorite until we started to feud with the entire city of Philadelphia. Did that team not have Jalen Hurts? No, they did not have Jalen Hurts. But did today's win change how you view the Commanders?
So I have no issue with the Eagles. It's the city of Philadelphia.
That's what I said. Our rival's the city. We like the Eagles.
Yeah, it's the city of Philadelphia. Whole nother story. So they went straight to the top. A team that hasn't beaten any good teams. They went right for the team that we all considered the best in football. The fact that Jalen Hurts was not in the game does matter a great deal because Kenny Pickett, despite the fact that Kenny Pickett does the thing that we've been telling Jalen Hurts to do all season, is like throw it to your best player. It's A.J. Brown. And Kenny Pickett's like, you know what? There's a really big, strong guy over there. I'm going to throw it to him who's also pretty fast, and that works out. That's effective offense. That was their best plays. Deep balls, short passes, it didn't matter. But to be honest, they had a chance to put this game away. The Eagles did, if Devonta Smith would have caught a ball that he normally catches.
Yes, absolutely. Why are we doing this thing where, like, because there's this winning record line, suddenly we have all this faith in the Commanders? This was a extremely sloppy game against a backup quarterback for 3.5 quarters. And you're, just because the record is the record, you're treating it like it's some grand
results matter, Bill.
gesture. Results matter. This meant absolutely nothing in terms of how I feel about the Washington Commanders.
It meant something to Charlie. Damn it.
It was a great moment that changes nothing about their performance moving forward. They turned the ball over 5 times in this game, Charlie.
Oh yeah, 5
times.
They're one of
3
2
fumbles,
teams.
3 fumbles and 2 interceptions. Yeah, the other team that did win while having 5 turnovers, the second best team in the NFC behind the Commanders is the Lions. So yeah, you're a good team if you can win while having 5 turnovers. What I will say, so I agree with you generally that I don't really change my opinion on the Eagles or Washington. I will say though, there's something to be said for Washington being able to close out some of these late game situations, and this might just be like a local person's experience where this team is the team that does not compete in these games. They're always on the wrong side of these games, and it does feel different having Jayden Daniels, who seems comfortable in just about every situation. So this, I understand, it's a lot of touchy-feely stuff that's going to piss you off, but it's all true.
Bill, I have a stat for you.
Stat him down.
With under 10 seconds left and Jayden Daniels having the ball, his EPA per play is 1 million. $1 million.
Yeah, now you respect it.
I'm just imagining getting into the huddle. It's 3rd down. We got to go with the stop to win the game. Bobby Wagner, Hall of Fame linebacker, sitting there like, guys, this is going to be our strategy. We're going to leave Devontae Smith wide open. We're not going to cover him with anybody. That's going to be our philosophy. That's how you close out games. Leave the second best player on the other team wide open for him to drop a pass.
Saquon Barkley.
What are we talking about here?
I mean, if they studied the tape. You know, they lost to the Falcons early in the year because of drop pass. They know what they're doing. They study the tape, set it up for a Pro Bowl level All-Pro player to get wide open, and he's going to drop it.
I got a very important question for you guys. Very important question, because we've talked a lot about Jalen Hurts didn't play, and obviously Kenny Pickett was there, and yeah, they were up 14-0, and they looked like the Eagles were going to run away with it when Jalen Hurts in the game. We've also talked about how this Eagles defense they're vaunted now. Yeah. So I have a question for you, because the Commanders lit up that defense. Does Jalen Hurts play defense for that team?
Yeah, that wasn't the problem.
Because that's the defense that Jayden Daniels eviscerated.
It's crazy he did that when second half Cliff is a disaster and everyone knows his plays. I mean, it's even more impressive.
Don't you do this. Don't try to change the ground on which we are discussing this to try to make it so the point that you made is all of a sudden valid. We could say second half Cliff is great. I mean, we're not talking about second half Cliff right now. We're talking about the vaunted defense that obviously was not very vaunted against a team that's been struggling offensively second half of the year. I'll say one thing that I found really interesting in watching Jayden Daniels that I think is going to be like telling about the future of young quarterbacks is he has a combination of skills that I think are really important, and going forward it might be something that we would look for more often. It's the athleticism. I think we all understand that's a really important skill, but the other one is the deep ball accuracy that he has. The combination of those things I think has been the real difference in how he could have been a kind of rough situation rookie quarterback to being a really good, probably rookie of the year level quarterback right now.
I mean, I love this point, because it's like you've talked a lot about how analytics in football can't homogenize the game in the way that it can in other sports because there's too many variables. But there are things that you can look for that boost your chance of having success. And a quarterback that can get 5 or 6 yards running the ball when there's a broken play, and a quarterback that's accurate downfield and can create explosives, that's like within the realm of analytics that teams should be looking for, that type of player.
What does that have to do with analytics? Like,
no, I think
analytics also thinks that getting a guy who can run the ball is good.
I'll defend my man, Charlie. Don't give in so easily, Charlie. I don't think that it has anything to do with analytics necessarily, but the point is, in basketball, in baseball, like there are certain types of players that you go for. And I think Charlie's point is in football, because of all the variables, there's normally not a certain type of player, but this is a situation where we're like, this is essentially threes and layups. It's like, if I got a guy that can get me a layup or hit a three, which is the deep pass, then that changes. That's like one thing that is kind of universally beneficial no matter your system or your offense.
Thank you for proving me right in the face of Bill. Now let's go back to insulting the Eagles defense as we can, because it's not like they went, this was the 2023 49ers where they were distributing the ball to superstars. Jayden Daniels was throwing touchdown passes to Alamadis Zacchaeus and Jamison Crowder, who got cut by the Jets. That's who was eviscerating this vaunted defense. This defense that was changing the NFC playoff race. Like we wrote off teams like the Lions because, they have so many injuries. How are they going to compete with this? Lions would put up like 60 on a defense if they played like that today.
Didn't they force 5 turnovers in this game? Like
pretty leaky though.
Yeah, but it could be leaky. If you force 5 turnovers, it should still be enough for you to win the football game. Like, I think overall that's a trade you'll take most weeks.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I get you. However, your argument is that they forced 5 turnovers, but that still wasn't enough to win the game. And I guess you'd say that's because they lost their starting quarterback, but they still had all these other great players. It's not as if Saquon Barkley went away. He had over 100 yards in the first half. This team, yeah.
I would like to point out, they actually might have given up 60 in this game if it wasn't for the turnovers.
I hate that I'm in a position now where I'm arguing that the team that I think is the best in football isn't that good, but I don't appreciate you pretending as if this was like a complete irrelevant fluke. Like, it's a thing that happened. And yes, there are people or there are teams who give up games to teams that are better than them. But at this time in the season, it's concerning when you see guys running free. You see them getting defensive penalties, too many men on the field. You see sloppiness that you haven't seen from the Eagles in their, 9-game winning streak up until this point?
Yeah. I mean, it was overall, outside of the turnovers, a really good performance from the Commanders offense and a really bad performance by the Eagles defense. But look, the turnovers still happened. And
yeah, you're right. The Eagles are still the best team in football.
It was sloppy on the other side of there were plays that were there to be made that didn't work out for the Eagles on offense, where this is a blow-away game if they were a little luckier. Marshawn Lattimore, who was not great in this game, committed 3 pass interference penalties and then left injured. Saquon had a catch that was ripped out of his hands on the floor by Bobby Wagner, or if he just touches him, it's a completion, but because he only touched the football, it became an incompletion. And then the Smith play. Like, put it this way. If Devontae Smith catches a wide open pass, do you feel any differently about the Eagles than you did heading into this week? If you do, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But I just want to know.
Oh, to be clear, I don't feel any different about the Eagles regardless.
No, they're still the best in football. But I just don't appreciate you saying that the game itself was completely irrelevant. Yeah. I still don't. As long as Jalen comes back at some point with a healthy brain, this team is still the best team in football. But the Commanders are. I think what was most offensive to us in Washington is that you're acting like this game meant nothing. Maybe it means nothing in the grand scheme of the Eagles' projection, but it means something. It means a lot to us here in DC.
And also the other thing is is if we're gonna get into coulda, woulda, shouldas, it's like Kenny Pickett converted multiple 4th down and 4th and longs to get
Kenny
there. It's
Pickett being Kenny Pickett, baby.
Yeah, okay, exactly. If we're talking about luck, that's luck that could have given the Commanders the ball back before the Devontae Smith play. Anyway,
they gave Kenny Pickett that slide unnecessary roughness penalty, which if there's anybody in the league who does not deserve to be protected right there, it's the man who does the fake slide.
They pulled it off.
Yeah, but I didn't like them throwing it in the first place. He barely grazed the shoulder pad.
We're not concerned about the Eagles. Do we feel any better about the Commanders? Do we feel like this is a
before we get off the not concerned about Eagles, I would say generally we're not very concerned about the Eagles. I will say that in the course of a game, one of the things that I thought was the Eagles' advantage was their flexibility and their ability to alter their game plan offensively and defensively through the course of a game. I didn't see a whole bunch of that today, but they've done it in other games of the season. So I would say that having the quarterback out nullifies that conversation on the offensive side of the ball. Anybody lose their quarterback, their Super Bowl chances are, well, anyone except for the Eagles with Nick Foles.
Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles with Nick Foles. But other than that, your Super Bowl chances are out the window. But for their defense to be as talented and flexible as they are, to still not be able to stand up at the end of that game was surprising to me.
Yes, I would point out, first half of this game, what the Eagles have done well for the last 9 weeks is win at the line of scrimmage with their offensive line and their defensive line. In the first half of this game, they were beating the hell out of the Commanders up front. Second half of the game, they had like 20 carries for 40 yards on the ground when they could have closed out the game that way. They did not get consistent pressure on Jayden Daniels. They got some pressure, but it wasn't like they blew away the Commanders' offensive line. Remember, the first time these two teams played, fourth quarter of the game, Saquon took over, and he did not do that in this game because they were not winning up front. And that, to me, is maybe the best thing for the Commanders is they did not get blown away and blown up on the line of scrimmage. Their line should not be as good as the Eagles on paper, and yet they still managed to pull that off.
And I mean, we talked about the Eagles secondary too, and Terry McLaurin roasted Quinyon Mitchell in one-on-one coverage. There were things that happened that we didn't expect from this Eagles team. Even, and you can obviously write it off in the fact that they didn't have the quarterback. They were rolling when they had him. But still, those are things that we hadn't seen in past weeks when we were talking about both sides of the ball being so dominant.
I mean, there's a chance that they see each other again in the first round of playoffs, and it'd be, I don't know.
In Philadelphia, though.
Yeah, in Philadelphia. I think it'd be pretty tough for the Commandos to pull it off.
Right
That's
after
exactly
Saquon's run 45 times in Week 18 to set the single-season rushing record, too. So
where do you stand on that? By the way, the tone of your voice suggests that you want them to ignore this single-season rushing record.
Hell no. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
I absolutely want them to set the single-season rushing record against the Giants in Week 18 in our beloved city of Philadelphia. Are you kidding me? I absolutely want to see that happen.
That's my question. So he needs 268 yards to break the record. Do you kind of think he should go for it and try and go for like 280 yards next week so he breaks it in 16 games?
Didn't they? I mean, that was the Giants game where they pulled him, right? When earlier in the year when he was putting up crazy numbers and he decided to let the young guys eat. Mistake. You could have got 100 extra yards just at the close out of that game.
No, I don't. I hate the 16 game argument because it shows like how young people are in making this conversation. Why is the 16 game record the appropriate record? Like, why shouldn't the 14 game OJ record be the record? When Eric Dickerson set the record in the 80s, after the play, he said, no, OJ Simpson is still the best running back of all time, that he's still the best. I just had extra games to do it in. I think it was his 15th game he set the record in. So, like, why are we using that as like the barrier of, that's what the record should be, and doing it in 17 games is against the rules? That's just a nonsense way of thinking about it.
Sounds like a straw man. I don't really hear people making that argument at all. Like,
check out not my mentions first off, but second, when he gets closer to doing it, I guarantee you will see people making the asterisk argument. I promise you. Come back to this next week.
I mean, it's a dumb argument. It's the season. The record is the season. If the season gets longer, then it just so happens the season gets longer.
He's gonna have fewer carries than Eric Dickerson by the time the season's over anyway.
Bill, do you really not know why they wanted to erase OJ's single season rushing record?
No. At that point, they didn't.
In the 80s?
They could see the future then.
No, but like why the argument no longer holds water?
No, the argument didn't hold water then is the point he's made, or it held water then, despite the fact that people tried to push it.
I know why. They hated those Hertz rent-a-car ads. OJ
those were ridiculous because there's no way that a black man can run through the airport like that without getting tackled.
All right, guys, let's move on. Just imagining your mentions now of like just OJ fans.
What? There are some?
I don't know, probably. Hello.
There's definitely some. That's some bad news.
Guys, let's get our hands up. I gotta stop laughing.
All right. Deep breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
It's time for the check-in presented by Allstate.
Throw your hands up.
We are going to travel back to the game from Saturday night where the Chiefs, their offense looked a lot better with Joe Thuney at left tackle. They were moving the ball more effectively. I know the stat line still looked in certain ways like Patrick Mahomes wasn't throwing the ball as explosively as he had in the past, but their inside running game was a little bit, but they looked much more like the Chiefs, which begs the question, are the Chiefs doing the thing the season where they become the Chiefs?
Yeah, sure are.
Yeah. I hate it so much.
Who could have seen this coming?
I hate it so much.
Who could have seen this possibility of the Chiefs figuring things out after kind of just futzing around for 16 weeks? I will tell you, I don't want to say this is just like they were bored. Two big differences. Number one, the Joe Thuney thing that Charlie mentioned. Having a competent adult protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side. Big addition. Now, they attacked Mike Caliendo a little bit at left guard. He had struggles here and there. But having a competent left tackle, not even a great left tackle because Thuney's a guard, but having a competent left tackle, big step in the right direction, as it turns out, for your offense. But the other big thing, the addition of Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
You could tell from the very first one, that 4th and 1 he converted early in the game, Andy Reid has had stuff in his playbook all year for Hollywood that he has not been able to run. Hollywood Brown ran 14 routes in this game. He was targeted 8 times on those 14 routes. He was absolutely a key part of the playbook, of the scheme from day one. And as he gets healthier, as the year goes on, as he gets his football legs underneath him, that's only going to help things. So I think having that second wide receiver behind DeAndre Hopkins they trust is a big difference maker for the Chiefs. That's one of the reasons why I think they looked a lot better.
I was right for so many weeks, and now I'm still right because the Chiefs
Oh.
are back, and I'm saying it before I have anyone else tell me to backtrack on anything that I said before. It only took 1 week of seeing it, and it's the point that you made about Hollywood. It's not just how Hollywood played. It's that it bumped everyone down.
Yeah.
And I saw that Xavier Worthy was more of a gadget guy. They didn't have him out there pretending to be a true X and not making an impact on the game. And they still had DeAndre Hopkins, the possession guy, moving the chains here and there. And there was really, felt like no pressure at all on Travis Kelce, which, of course, if you start worrying about where Hollywood is, and then you have to be concerned about the Xavier Worthy gadget plays, and then that is when Patrick Mahomes is going to find Kelce in the middle. And then the topper, the thing that we always expect but are still surprised by, is Patrick Mahomes limping for 15-yard first downs. He did it again. So, yeah, their defense played well, which is less impressive considering how C.J. Stroud played in this game, the way that he threw the ball away a couple of times to that team. But yeah, this is the thing that you look at the Chiefs and say, oh, their offense actually looked effective. It was just 1 week, but it was against a defense that I thought was well positioned to give them a hard time.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say, Domonique Foxworth. If there was any defense that would attack a team that kind of has bad tackles, it would be the Texans, who have Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson at defensive end. And they did not give the Chiefs consistent problems during this game. That's a really positive sign. They might not play a better set of edge rushers the rest of the way throughout this entire run to the Super Bowl that are inevitably going to make now that they fixed things in week 17 or week 16.
And we don't give enough attention, I think, to like the impact on game planning and game-to-game situations. And I find that after we watch Chiefs games, we chalk it up to like, oh, they're just magic. Patrick Mahomes just does something special, or something like Chris Jones is unblockable. But then when we go back and watch the whole game, you do see like the game plan situations, the way that they put in the game plan for key situations. So yeah, I've been saying all year long that the Chiefs are not the Chiefs, and we're all falling into this trap just believing that they can get it done. There's no replacement for the tackle. Then DJ Humphrey came out there and got hurt again. I was like, see, they can't fix it, but they just damn fixed it. Right in front of our eyes, they fixed it.
I believe, Domonique Foxworth, I came to you before the season, might have been on this very show, and said the Chiefs were going to be 16-1 this year. And we are now in week 16, and the Chiefs are 14-1.
I got a request. I feel like people would appreciate your I told you so's more if every now and then you brought up a time when you were wrong, because you're not 100%. You're not shooting 100% for the field. What was one thing that you said?
Derek Carr's elite. Derek Carr's elite.
Oh,
Derek Carr's elite.
Remember when you said Derek Carr was elite? Remember that? Remember that, Bill Barwell? Huh, Mr. 16-1?
You know, it's tough out here. You just say a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff, comes through. Sometimes producers make you say stuff that you don't believe when you're on TV. It feels like that might have been the case here with, I don't even know what Derek Carr. You thinking of David Carr, the Texans, 20 years ago? Maybe you got confused. I don't know.
No, maybe you got confused.
Oh man,
I probably did.
I do think, Domonique, I think you owe guards ever an apology, because you have said multiple times this season that guard is the position closest to fan, and guard just saved their offensive line.
I will say, I want to take this moment and look directly at the camera and say I apologize to Joe Thuney. Rest of you guards ain't. There we go.
And you go, Joe.
Oh yeah, I mean, Gojo's not a guard
doubly
anymore.
Disrespectful.
He's moved up. No, I mean, obviously
he guards Mike Bullock Sr.
Fair point. Obviously, guards have a lot of value in this league, but I tend not to believe that a guard can go play left tackle for the best quarterback in football. But Joe Thuney obviously can. That's it.
I loved on the broadcast, and we're like, Patrick Mahomes with like 5 Joe Thuneys.
I heard him say that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, he didn't say 5. He said a whole team of Joe. I believe,
which 53.
Is. Yeah, he's like, I would love, because they were telling us how smart Joe Thuney was and how talented he is, and Patrick trusts him because he understands everything. And I couldn't help but imagine Joe Thuney running routes. And I was like, I actually don't think Patrick means that.
Bill, if you could choose,
hold up. That's exactly what I was going to ask. If you could choose any position to occupy all 53 spots on the roster, what would it be?
Offensive tackle. It's easy.
I
would pick left tackle.
Oh, I was going to say one player.
One player is Lane Johnson.
22 Lane Johnsons.
Yeah, 22 Lane Johnson. He was a high school quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 22 Lane Johnsons. I would win everything.
No, give me 22 George Kittles.
Nah.
You need some. Let's just after the catch.
So I'm really torn here. I'm probably gonna take 22 Josh Allen's.
I don't like the way this is shaping up.
But
I don't like the way this is shaping up. Save us.
Do you want me to piss you off?
Please.
22 Taysom Hills.
No, no, thank you. No, thank you. How did we get to the point where all of our selections are white?
Well, if Anthony Richardson wasn't fragile, he'd be my selection.
This is unacceptable.
And also, Anthony Richardson overthrowing all the other Anthony Richardsons would be devastating for me.
No, Anthony Richardson could never overthrow Anthony Richardson. He runs 4.3, right?
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson will run down.
You run 4.3 out of bounds doesn't mean you're going to get the catch when you come down with it 20 yards deep.
I changed my mind. Trent Williams is the right answer.
Ooh, okay,
Who wants to face off against Trent Williams? He's an incredible athlete, and he's the nastiest dude in the history of football. Give me 22 Trent Williams.
Prime, it has to be Cam Newton, though, if anyone ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
My thing is, like, you know how much...
Jackson's?
Nah. You know, my reverence for offensive line is... I have to go with a tackle. You got to go with a tackle. Because you can't block a tackle.
Josh Allen could.
No, he couldn't. You think Josh Allen could keep Trent Williams away from the quarterback?
Long enough for other Josh Allen to throw to an open Josh Allen who burned to Trent Williams who was playing corner.
No, he's not going to. It's a 5-yard route, and then Trent Williams going to light him up. Yeah, I guess you're just running screen game all the time, huh?
Yeah, we're running the playbook against the Vikings. It's all screens and bombs and nothing else in between.
Have we milked this for all?
Yeah,
this
probably too much.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck editing, guys.
By the way, none of us mentioned the quarterback for the next team, Lamar, who'd be incredible. 22 Lamars. I guess he's not quite big enough to block for the other Lamars. But
that's where I start. That's why I always start O-line, because I think that's the one position that you can't like athlete your way out of.
I look for like big and fast.
22 Lamars trying to tackle 22 Lamars though.
Like, if I'm trying to think, like if like LeVar Arrington could throw and catch, like 22 LeVars would have been sick. Like 6'3", 260, running a 4.4. All right. Let's go into the Ravens versus.
Arrington references.
Let's go into the Ravens. Courtney Browns. If Courtney Brown could throw and catch.
20 Andy Katzenmoyers, guys. Listen.
Okay, I see why he chose a Katzenmoyer after all the whites we picked. All right, so we're going back to Saturday more. The Ravens, they ended up rolling the Steelers. The game stayed close a little bit longer than we thought, even though it felt like the Ravens were in control.
Myles Garrett
would be great.
All right, that's my choice. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The Ravens rolled the Steelers. It was close for a little bit. Then Lamar threw an interception up by 7. Then Russell Wilson immediately threw a pick 6 afterwards.
Aaron Donald?
Oh, he's out of the league.
Aaron Donald off the table?
Count. He's out of the league. He doesn't count. All right, one more time. Charlie, you can get your question out this time and go.
Wasn't Warren Sapp a tight end when he got recruited?
But the problem is, I don't know. I've seen D linemen throw footballs.
Yeah.
It's an ugly scene most of the time.
It's true. It's why Lane Johnson's special for this.
That's why
Sue kicked that extra point. We know he's a great athlete. He could play kicker.
So Lamar Jackson's really good, and the Ravens steamrolled the Steelers. It wasn't a blowout, but it felt like the Ravens were obviously in control. I think we talked about MVP conversation before this and how Lamar would have to like completely destroy these next two teams. He didn't really destroy the Steelers, but it was a good sign for the Ravens going forward, because they were able to do exactly what people are not able to do against the Steelers. It's just bang it at them with Derrick Henry.
I was about to say one thing. Did you feel like this was a Lamar game or a Derrick Henry game?
Yeah.
Obviously Lamar was good.
100% Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he was great.
Lamar threw a terrible pick in this game in the second half.
I don't know. I think it was a bad time for the pick, but I don't really think that was Lamar's fault. But I mean, I guess it felt like man coverage. You sit down as a receiver, you sit down in the hole in the zone. You don't want to run into someone. There was no one out there to run into. It was surprising to me that Bateman sat down there. But I mean, either way, it's an interception in a key moment, and had us in the corners in the save day. My text message or my phone blew up because Jeff Saturday was very pissed off after they hand the ball to Derrick Henry to run all the way down the field. All he wrote to me was, why? Why are we throwing the ball? Why?
He's right.
No, I agree. I don't disagree with him, but yeah, the cornerback stepped in to save the day, and Marlon Humphrey stole that interception, pick six. Shocking.
That felt like miscommunication too. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this was a great performance from the Ravens. I feel like I'm just a hater today, but there were 5 fumbles in this game. The Ravens recovered 4 of them, and they were like sloppy fumbles on offense, and they were big, meaningful fumbles on defense that the Ravens created. And I know like forcing fumbles is a skill, but recovering fumbles is not a skill. That is luck, and that was a key factor in this game. Wasn't one of the Steelers fumbles like
On the
inside
goal
the
line.
10-yard line. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like about to be a touchdown. They get a pick six the other way. Like, I think the defense playing well is a really positive sign. But to me, I felt like this was really like Derrick Henry and the defense, not Lamar, even though I think Lamar was not bad on this
No,
game,
I'm
he
sorry
was
if you
not
misunderstood.
ridiculous.
I said Lamar's name and everyone got distracted and didn't listen to the fact that after it I said that it was obviously a Derrick Henry game. So yeah, it was a Derrick Henry game. The reason why I think of the Ravens, and you're right about the fumbles and the turnovers, to me it felt like this game, the score was closer than when I was watching the game. It's like the Ravens seemed to have the game in control the entire time. At no point did I think, oh, this is a tight game between two evenly matched teams. It's like, oh, the Ravens are better. They're going to win this game at some point. And I guess it's more about, it's the eye test. It's the vibes of this game. You walked away from that game feeling like these were two evenly matched teams, and it just so happened that the Ravens got lucky this week.
It felt like this was a matchup in general between two evenly matched teams, and the Ravens got so many of the breaks in this game that it created a situation the Steelers can't come back from. The Steelers are not built to come back from 14 points down. They're not built to come back down multiple scores in the second half. The Ravens, they absolutely are built to hold on to those leads in the second half. But the first time these two teams played, it was the opposite. The Steelers had a bunch of the breaks go their way. And the Steelers, even though I don't think they're much better than the Ravens, I think they're actually probably a little worse than the Ravens in a vacuum, because they played in a game script that's positive in their favor, how they're built to play, they were able to control the game. And to me, I think that's not indicative of those one team being significantly better than the other. I think it's home field advantage. I think it's the fumble recoveries. I think it's the game script. I think it's all those things. But I think the Ravens got into a game they were built to win and won it. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't know if I'd feel that way if they played again.
So when I was watching it, it felt to me like the Ravens were a better team. This also felt to me, with how long they let the Steelers hang around, that this is the game that the Ravens have blown a million times. And
That's the vibe element to me. Right.
They were on pace to blow it if Russell Wilson hadn't thrown that interception, and if the Steelers their top weapons in that game weren't Calvin Austin and Mike Williams. Like, it felt like it was like
tough scene.
This is like the Ravens got over the hump and didn't blow one of those games, but it was tenuous, even though they clearly seemed like the better team up until that point.
I'm just picturing like a graphic on the screen, like Ravens win expectancy or win expectancy 77%. Ravens win expectancy in this situation 6% because they're the Ravens and they lose all these games in these spots.
I think it's possibly that I was primed for like viewing this game through the physicality prism.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Ravens having Derrick Henry break tackles and run the ball at will, like it never felt like there was a drive that got stopped because they couldn't do what they wanted to do. Like, it felt like there were situational things that caused drives to stop, like big sacks, which is fair, but it never felt like, oh, we got you behind the sticks. We're in control of this particular series. And I guess that's why. And on the other side, the Steelers were not moving the ball all that effectively throughout the game offensively. So that's why I walk away thinking like, man, yeah, there were fumbles, there was luck, there was this, there was that. But the team that we thought was better for most of this game. And Justin Tucker hits long field goals again, or hits long field goal.
Yeah. We fixed him.
Yeah, 50, sure. They sure hope so.
Justin Tuckers?
It's
no thanks.
22 Brandon Aubreys, man. That'd be just line up and hit bang in 70-yard field goals over and over again. Beat that team. Congrats to the Ravens for not choking this game. I think we can all be happy that they didn't.
Okay. Here, let's move the conversation forward, because we have had this Ravens conversation about how nothing matters until they do it in the postseason, like 5 times this year, 5 times last year, 5 times the year before. Should we not have that conversation about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers right now? A team that has not won a postseason game since the 2016 postseason, that has not made it to the conference championship game, I believe, since they've made it past the divisional round once since 2010. They made it to the conference championship once since the 2010 season, and they're in a 3-game stretch right now where they just lost to the Eagles and the Ravens pretty comfortably. They're getting the resurgent Kansas City Chiefs next week. Are we not going to be having the same conversations about the Steelers, about how, can they really do it against teams who actually matter come January, as we're about to sit here in January with the Steelers? Or is Mike Tomlin's Super Bowl that he won when Domonique was in the league and I was in college, like that meaningful now 15, 16 years later?
I get your point. However, the way that we view Mike Tomlin, it doesn't mean that the conversation around him won't be the same, but the way that we view Mike Tomlin and we view the Steelers as a team that has been overachieving. And I guess you can't overachieve for over a decade, which is what they have been doing. At some point, you expect them to have a team that's worth winning. And so the question is the reason why they haven't had deep runs or won another Super Bowl been because Mike Tomlin has been too conservative offensively or something like that would be the only argument that you could make for him, is that they haven't been aggressive enough offensively. Most of the time, nobody thought these teams were good enough. Beginning of this year, we didn't think this team was good enough. And at a certain point, mid-season, we were like, hey, maybe they're good enough. And now, again, we don't think this team is good enough.
No, but we love talking about Tomlin magic, and we all think Mike Tomlin is a great coach. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think Mike Tomlin is one of the 2 or 3 best coaches in football. But why does that magic run out when we get to the postseason?
Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike Tomlin. Yep, you're good.
I think I can't speak to why that magic runs out, but having it for an entire run in the playoffs or for the first game of the playoffs is something that I think you can expect from time to time. But the question about moving on from Mike Tomlin, or I guess maybe you're not saying moving on, but
I'm not
holding him the
Absolutely
same. But I think the difference for Mike Tomlin in that situation is he is an integral part to a culture that's sustained there for decades beyond him. So pulling him out of that situation, I think, changes a lot more than just the head coach. It's not like anywhere else. And so I think you're probably right. Over this time frame, you would expect them. It's a lot like the Cowboys, frankly, in recent years. It's like you have good teams. You get in the playoffs. At some point, you should make a run, and they haven't made a run. So that's worth criticism, I guess.
Just like Lamar's the system, I would say Mike Tomlin is the system, but the system does not seem to work, just like it doesn't for the Ravens in the playoffs, for the Steelers in the playoffs as well.
They're in no man's land. Like, we can call it what it is. Like, there's no real upside with the offense that they have.
Watch them beat the Chiefs next week, though. After we spent the entire day like, the Chiefs are back, baby. Yeah. Watch them beat the Chiefs.
This is another team that has great edge rushers that would give the Chiefs tackles trouble.
This is also like when you look at these Mike Tomlin Steelers teams since Big Ben became like a walking mummy, where it's like, this is why everyone's so obsessed with quarterback play.
Yeah.
Like, this is why it is, because you look at this and you look at the guys that they've cycled in and out. It's like, oh, sweet, you won 9 games with Duck Hodges and then got boat raced in the first round of the playoffs. It just limits your ceiling to such an extreme level.
Are they the AFC division winner you want to play in the first round? Would you rather play them than the Texans?
I mean, they may not win the division right now with the Ravens in position right now. And if this resurgent Chiefs knock them off, the Ravens are likely to win the rest of their games. And steal the division.
You want to play the Texans. Like, come on. Like, it's like you want to play a team that, like, essentially starts every possession at 3rd and 10. That's great.
And a quarterback that's throws it to the other team, it feels like as often as anyone. They don't catch them all, but he's going to give you some chances.
Yeah.
Especially when it's 3rd and 10 all the time. It's a good time to give people some chances.
It's really starting to feel bad for CJ Stroud. Always playing behind the sticks. All right, let's go to the NFC for a second, because the Vikings beat the Seahawks today. Awesome throw by Sam Darnold down the stretch. Sick touchdown throw to Justin Jefferson. And the Rams beat the Jets. No real shocker there. The Rams now look like they have the NFC West because of that result. Those 2 results. Do those results change how you view the NFC playoff picture, where we did not think that there were that many great teams outside of the 3 NFC North teams and the Eagles?
No. I mean, the NFC's always seemed like it was going to be very tough to predict because there are so many really good teams or teams around the same level. And I think about the Vikings is we found them to be one of the teams that have the fewest glaring weaknesses, and a quarterback with the arm talent and the skill talent around him that he could have as high a ceiling as anyone for a game or for a stretch. So that hasn't changed for me. The question, I think, where it gets interesting is the Rams are much better now than they were at the beginning of the year. And that's the team that I think of all these teams that has changed maybe my perspective, but they're just as likely to give up 45 points on defense as they are to score 45 points. And if you catch the ones that Matt Stafford throws at you, it won't quite be the game. So it feels like that team feels very volatile.
I mean, I think they're better because they have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back. Like, that's one of the reasons they were struggling. They had multiple starting offensive linemen, and they were down their top 2 receivers. And when you have everyone healthy, or the vast majority of your guys healthy, we know Matthew Stafford can score, like you said, 45 points in offense. But this was not, to me, an impressive victory for the Rams. You win 19-9 against the Jets without Quinnen Williams, their best player, who has been phenomenal all season. A team that's had a terrible defense for 3 months now since Robert Saleh got fired. You scored 19 points. I mean, this was a Jets team that missed opportunities, had 8 penalties as usual, missed a field goal, missed an extra point, muffed the punch to end the game where they would have had a chance to try and score down 10 points and get at least a chance for a Hail Mary. But I feel like the Rams win against the Bills was a really impressive performance. This, to me, was like kind of a sloppy performance against a bad team where they, pulled one out. I think the Rams are a solid team and a definite teardrop from all 3 of the teams in the NFC North. And the Eagles.
I don't disagree with you on that point at all. But is there any team in the NFC North that you think they absolutely cannot beat in one game? I guess that's the point that I'm making, is like, I think that they have those receivers healthy and the running game effective, and that quarterback. I think that's the scary part. And they'll probably be hosting somebody because they're going to win the division for a home game. That's the fear that you get when you go in there with a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl.
Here's the problem, though. They're going to be hosting a team in the first round, and it's going to be in LA, and they're going to be playing the Lions, the Packers, or the Vikings.
Right.
And I guarantee you, Detroit, Green Bay, or Minnesota, they send in a lot of people to Los Angeles for that game. That is going to be like 75% road fans in SoFi for that game.
The Lions really need to hold on to that bye, because of those names that you mentioned, the team that I would be most concerned about is that Lions and that man coverage defense trying to slow down the Rams. It turns into a shootout really quickly. I think that'd be like, I'd rather send Minnesota or Green Bay there, honestly, than have the right now number 1 overall or number 1 in the NFC Lions go there. They better hold on and not give this up to Minnesota.
Yeah. And the Rams did beat the Vikings earlier this year, too.
Yeah.
Do Lions fans still, would that be extra heartbreaking with the Stafford piece of it? If he was like, because this team obviously, without the injuries, it feels like the Lions are the best team in football. Like they've had so much that's gone wrong. 22 guys on IR. And to have this season, if it were to end at the hands of Matthew Stafford, would that be extra painful? Do you think they not care anymore?
They cheered him when he came home, right? Yeah. It feels like they like him.
But they also called him Stat Padford for a while.
Well, I mean, they had the relationships had some rocky times, but they are, I think they still like him. But I guess if he knocks them out of the playoffs, that might change the way they feel about him a little bit.
Yeah, they're not going to like anybody who knocks them out of the playoffs. They're not going to cheer him if he beats them at home.
That'd be so sad. Oh, thank you, Matthew, for knocking us out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that would be very sad. They would cry into their gross hot dogs.
I mean, it is interesting, though, because obviously the Rams, with their weapons, can be a lot better, and that Bills game was, I mean, we'll talk about it in a second, maybe more or less important than we realize with how the Bills defense is, but like an amazing coach and a really good quarterback who might be the best quarterback in the NFC playoff picture going into that. That's a team that's a pain in the to beat.
I was impressed with the way that you didn't say the team that no one wants to play. That's nice. Good job avoiding that.
Good point, Bill, about Toyotathon.
Oh, Toyotathon again. I refuse to participate.
It's a great point.
It's a terrible point.
My point was, as we pivot to the Bills side of this, is we gave the Rams a lot of credit for eviscerating the Bills defense in that game, but the Bills gave up 400 yards to the Patriots today, and they ended up winning that game. But Josh Allen sort of hurt his hand a little bit. It looked like he was shaking out his wrist on his actual throwing hand.
He had I think he hit his funny bone, is what they said after the game.
Okay. But something like it was clearly uncomfortable, and that defense in the first half particularly didn't really provide any resistance to Drake May. Bill, on this one, do you see their defense becoming an Achilles heel for this Bills team?
It depends, because you can be a subpar defense, but you have to do something well. If you are good at one thing on defense that really matters, you can be bad at everything else. The Chiefs are like classic example in years past. Not the most recent defenses, because they're really good, but like the older Chief defenses, the early Mahomes era Chiefs defenses were not good, but they created a lot of turnovers. And that is what I think this Bills defense has to do. They created one turnover in those prior 2 games where they were really struggling at defense. But on Sunday, even though I thought Drake May played really good football, threw the ball up and down the field, bunch of quarterback run game, he ran really well, they forced 3 turnovers. They had a touchdown on a play where somehow Drake May was given a fumble for like a backwards pass that hit Ramondre Stevenson in the hands, and then he got knocked down, and the Bills returned it for a like 2-yard touchdown. Like, if you can be bad and give up a ton of yards, but if you're going to come up with an interception in the end zone, if you're going to come up with a fumble 6 for a touchdown, if you can force turnovers, that makes up for a lot of yardage given up on other drives.
Unfortunately, when you get into playoffs, you're playing only good teams. And you're going to have to beat good teams. You know what good teams don't do a lot of? It's turn the ball over. I guess you could point to what happened with the Ravens last week and a bunch of fumbles and an interception and say that they can. But the problem is you need that week in and week out. And I guess you would argue if you're the Bills fan, it's like, we'll get it a couple times. And then the other times, Josh will just be so great that we'll overcome it. So they're in good position. But if we have to point to something that scares us about that team, it's absolutely how porous the defense can be at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legit concern. I'm not saying that the defense is good. I'm just saying if you have a bad defense that doesn't do anything right, you're screwed. You cannot win with like the 28th best defense in football, but you can be the 20th, the 18th best defense in football, have a couple games where you get hot because you forced 3 turnovers and you're ahead early, and then you got that freak on the other side of the field. That is a formula you can win, yes. And so I agree. Like, you are going to find it harder to have those crazy takeaway games come the postseason. But we've seen like the Browns last year had a game where they turned the ball over on the Rams. Even the Rams in the Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford threw 2 interceptions. You will get sloppy games from other teams if you can force takeaways. And I think, I also think that maybe we're a little too harsh on the Bills defense. Like, we had no concerns about this defense until like 3 weeks ago. And now suddenly they're like a sieve. I think we're a little better than we're giving them credit for right now.
Part of that is they've been worse in the last couple of weeks than the Bengals defense. So when you put that in perspective of how we feel about that defense, it's okay to throw some doubts on them.
And there's always like a bit of confirmation bias, I guess, or perception bias that we have with these teams. Teams that have players that we know have been good for a long time, we assume that the lull is like the anomaly. And this is a team that I think for a couple years now, I've been surprised by how well they played despite the players that they had on their roster. So, and I'm being completely honest about this. I think that might be part of this is like, I knew at some point that these guys were going to be a problem. And so it doesn't mean I'm right. It probably honestly means I'm wrong. But I think we're primed to, given the names on that defense and the issues that their defense had, I'm primed to believe at some point it's going to be a problem and kind of want to be like, see, told you so, when it actually becomes a problem.
I'm going to give that coach the benefit of the doubt. I think Sean McDermott has done a really good job developing players, and I think that goes a long way. I'm more likely to believe they can make it work with no names. Like, even someone like, I'm trying to think of a team I want to be mean to. I don't want to be mean to anybody on YouTube. I want to be nice on YouTube. There's real concerns here, no question. But again, like, there's a big difference between 28th and 20th. And if you have the 20th best defense with the best offense in football, which the Bills, I mean, at their best, they looked unstoppable and terrifying. And there were moments in this game where they looked unstoppable and terrifying. You can do that. You're going to be just fine.
So let's just say, in a hypothetical, Joe Burrow next week beats the Broncos.
Oh, here we
the Broncos
go.
lose
trying to
out.
force this for a
and
while.
Joey B walks into Buffalo, first round of the playoffs.
Where
and
they won before.
That defense is falling apart at the seams. You wouldn't be a little bit worried that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are just going to make it so that Josh Allen has to score on every single possession to win?
I'd be worried that they would make it so that he have to do it, but I have no question that he would absolutely do it. Like, there's little to no chance.
But doesn't that make the margin nothing? If your defense can't stop anyone, you have a high-powered offense come in.
Little to no chance that I think the Bengals can beat the Bills in Buffalo in a playoff situation. You watch the Bengals play defense?
No chance.
You're concerned
little to none.
Your concern for the Bills is they might match up with a worse version of the Bills. That's just weird to me.
It is very much like,
because you don't see 7 seeds with Hall of Fame quarterbacks and Hall of Fame receivers having career years together that are getting hot at the right time.
Getting hot at the right time. Their defense is getting cold at the wrong time. I think the true saving grace for the Bills is the saving grace for just about everyone in the AFC playoffs is like, when you start pointing out the flaws on the Bills, you look around, it's like, hey, yeah, who's the team? Like Houston?
Yeah.
Is it Baltimore? Is it the Chargers? Is it the Steelers? Like, who's the team that doesn't have a big weakness except for the Chiefs?
I was about to say, the Bills' biggest weakness, third down defense, where they've been 30th in the league. Yeah. You know who's great on third downs on offense?
Patrick Mahomes.
And the Chiefs. That's right. The only down they care about.
Ooh, is there anybody who's beaten the Chiefs this year, though, that you remember, you recall?
Ooh, a good question. I don't know. Let's look. Maybe, the Chiefs only lost once, so, man, it should be easy to find.
Be pretty straightforward.
Was it the Ravens? No. I don't know. The Rams? Who beat the Chiefs?
It's a different team. They didn't have Hollywood Brown, remember?
Bill, did you find it? Did you find it? Did you find who beat them?
But I got a pick, so it doesn't work that well.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it either. I can't figure it out.
And I can't believe you're just writing off the Bengals. We talked for like 10 minutes about the Steelers and can't they win a playoff game against the Steelers?
No, I think this is again just me. This speaks more to our relationship than it does to how I feel about the Bengals. You've been trying to get this Bengals conversation off the ground for over a week now. Actually, for several weeks when I told you they were out of the playoffs like mid-season, and you're like, nope, we're gonna get this Bengals topic off the ground. No,
this is defensive player bias.
It is not defensive player bias. This team stinks.
Would you rather see the Bengals in the postseason than the Broncos?
Hell yeah. Are you kidding?
Hell yeah.
No, you're saying you'd rather watch them. I think he's asking who would you rather play against.
Oh, I think you meant who would I rather watch?
Yeah. I think
who do you want to see for strictly for entertainment purposes? Do you want to see the Broncos or the Bengals?
For entertainment purposes, I think you want to see Joe Burrow throw the football. Yeah.
Dude, I have eyeballs.
I was appealing to Domonique's defensive player bias and the Broncos defense.
I'd also rather watch Jamar Chase than Nick Bonito score touchdowns.
I'd rather not watch Pat Surtain play in the postseason.
I would love to watch Pat Surtain play in the postseason against Jamar Chase.
So, since we've exhausted this topic, Bill, since I have you here, can I unveil a theory?
Please.
I'm going to hate this theory.
Yeah,
you
both
by the way you're smiling.
It's a Commanders thing.
Oh,
but so you know how Cliff Kingsbury can only prepare an offense for 4 weeks at a time? And then he runs out of to do?
Yep. I've heard this.
Playoff Cliff. What if he has 4 weeks of new to do in the playoffs for this team?
So he's saving it, though?
He's saving it. We've never seen Playoff Cliff.
He just took the week 11. We have seen him. He was terrible. He got beat by like 40 by the Rams in the playoffs that one time.
I don't remember that.
He took the week 11 to week 14 playbooks and was like, guys, we're saving this stuff. We can't use it. We're just going to run mesh every single play. We're going to run mesh and screens that don't work every single play for the next 4 weeks. And then we're going to roll out these brand new like slip screens we haven't used all year come the division round of the postseason. I mean, I would love to see it. I would love something new from Cliff.
No, it's not. I mean, I'd be scared to see Jayden because of the depot accuracy that we discussed. Cliff, I'm good. Get him out of here.
Second time around playoff Cliff, you never know what you're going to get.
Ooh. This guy, I mean, has like Jayden Daniels and random receivers you would not pick up on your fantasy league if you had an empty spot at wide receiver, and he is about to go to the postseason, and you're just dismissing it.
It's your guy.
Hey, but Bill, don't worry. You guys would rather see Calvin Austin catching passes than Jamar Chase. Remember? No,
not me. I just don't feel like having a whole playoff conversation about something that's not happening.
It could
Bengals aren't getting.
We're gonna be doing this podcast in like a week from now, and the Bengals are gonna have beaten the Broncos. It's like, we're 1 game away from this crazy scenario having happened.
I want to get back to Cliff Kingsbury scenarios because, like, if it all falls apart. And they were talking about him getting a head coaching job, right?
Yeah, his odds have like plummeted of that from him being Caleb's next head coach, I guess.
Where did he go last? Didn't he go to Phuket after he got fired last time?
He went to Thailand. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He had 5 years left in his deal and went to Thailand for like 6 months.
No disrespect to Cliff. I don't want him to get fired because I don't like him. I want him to get fired because I want to know where he's going next. I'm looking forward to the next Cliff Kingsbury destination. Where is it going to be? Like Australia somewhere, New Zealand? He strikes me. Or is he going to keep it in Asia?
He could be. Like spend some time in Bali.
Yeah, he seems like
he could be Maldives. I could see him in like a hut over the water.
That sounds great. Yeah. All right, Cliff. Beat it. Go to a hut over the water and let go of our beloved Jayden Daniels and let him get a real coordinator.
Their offense is good.
I don't know. I'm just trying to piss you off now. Yeah, they're good. Why are they good? Are they good because of Cliff Kingsbury or Jayden Daniels?
Jayden Daniels.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, we all agree. We're all on the same page. Sorry, Cliff. It's not your doing.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
That's enough football talk for one day. Thank you once again, Bill Barnwell, for sticking around and bringing some joy and merriment to our Christmas season. Merry Christmas to you, Bill. If I don't talk to you before then, Merry Christmas to you, Charlie, and Merry Christmas to Allstate. Throw your hands up. This has been the Domonique Foxworth Show presented by Allstate. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the great producers. I love you, Paulville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.